Oh, you got the
All
questions
right.
ready to go.
The live
Yeah,
there.
because we're going to be discussing like the misconceptions or the misconnect that leads to disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Connects.
Y'all are in y'all bag on that one. Oh yeah, it says we're live right now.
Hey.
I
We did it. The dream team.
know we are here, guys.
Does that mean we live on YouTube?
I see us. We're live on Instagram. I'm looking at the Instagram. We're live now.
Let me go.
Yep.
Let me go to the tube.
Check the tube. We should be live there under
YouTube.
you guys' YouTube.
We're
Hey
going.
y'all. Oh, I see the guys coming in.
We are
Hey.
live on YouTube as well.
Let's get it.
This is
Hey.
amazing, guys.
Come
Welcome,
on, tech
everyone.
support.
Guys, we just want to welcome you all. We're going to introduce ourselves real quick. I'm Miles the Millennial.
Yes,
It's your
I'm
boy Rex. How we? Uh oh. Go
we
ahead,
won.
coach.
Rex knew what I was doing.
Go
We
ahead, coach.
did. I'm Coach Lauren J, relationship coach.
And it's your boy Rex Howard Jr., relationship and sex therapist.
And
Hey,
this is Real Talk, Real Growth, the now recently live published every single Tuesday
Yeah.
talk show where we're going to have conversations that are going to center around relationships, life, personal development, leadership, and ways that are going to help you as an individual grow in your life and be able to advance in the levels that you want to be in every aspect of your life that you wish to grow in. So we are super excited for today. We're going to have an amazing conversation. We've been working on this for a while, and we're so glad to be able to combine two platforms between what Coach Lauren has going on her end with her relationship coaching and what we have going on with Let's Talk Like Men podcast. So super excited for today. Coach Lauren, let them know a little something about what we're talking about today. Rex, I want you to give them that topic and put them on game about what's about to happen.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, bet. So tonight, guys, we're gonna be talking about the misconnects that leads to disconnects when it comes to partner relationships, friend relationships, and everything in between. And I think the importance of this conversation is we need to learn how to speak each other's language, because when we don't speak each other's language, that's when things go left. That's when conflict arises. That's when we have problems that shouldn't even be problems, right? So when we learn how to communicate effectively and we learn how to establish or understand what's blocking our communication, then we can create a healthier relationship. So that's my purpose, and that's the purpose of this conversation tonight. What you gonna add to that, Lauren?
man. Yeah, I'm excited about talking about it because that's one of the number one issues in most relationships is the communication piece. And oftentimes we don't really realize where the disconnect really happened until now we're out here trying to do damage control and trying to fix folk and things of that nature. So I definitely feel like the conversation tonight is going to be fruitful. So y'all, please feel free to drop your comments.
Yeah.
Facebook, we're live there. Make sure to drop your comments. We'll definitely make sure your questions. Thank y'all for Madeline says she's your biggest fan on the podcast, man. It's so dope on IG. So definitely man, rock with us. So we
Yeah.
here live. So I'm excited.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So how this bad boy is going to go is, we have about 10 questions that we'll go over. But we have about 45, 50 minutes that we'll use. So I'm going to ask the questions, and then Coach, you'll start us off. Miles will pick up on it, and then I'll fill in wherever we see fit, right?
Let's do it,
Okay.
Rex.
So question number one, why do you think men and women often communicate their needs and desires differently in relationships? And how does this affect mutual understanding? Mm.
You want to go first?
So interesting enough, I forgot. I think it was either you and I, or maybe we're all having this conversation. One of the things I realized, especially with me coaching couples, is that we do not know how to communicate. We know how to command, but commanding and communicating is not the same thing. So when we think about language and where did we first learn how to speak and things of that nature, it's at home. So how did you hear your parents talk? How did you hear your grandparents talk? How did you hear your cousins talk? Like all of these different people and conversations help to form your communication. And
Sure.
so I can speak as a Black woman from the South because I'm from Louisiana. We don't communicate. We
Mm.
complain. That's what we.
Mm.
So we start out with stuff like, Which I think I am a maid. I'm not a
Yeah,
maid.
yeah.
Why this house looking like this? Now we don't say, baby, whenever the dishes in the sink and I get home and I've already had a really stressful day, like this increases my anxiety, and that's why I respond that way. Like, so can we start having the dishes
Yeah.
washed, or what can we do about that? Right? Can we get some plastic plates? Right? Something. We don't do that. We just come in complaining. So that is how we begin to think like communication should be,
Yeah.
right? So we overstimulated, we complain about the situation, never giving clarity about what we really need, and then we're mad when we don't get what we need.
Absolutely. That's
I
good.
love that. You know, that's absolutely the root. Is it starts at home, um, and I don't want to add more to that because she's already really addressed it. But what I do want to say is what happens after you get out of the home is conditioning by society, right?
Mm,
So once you're outside of the home, even if you, let's say you had a good example of communication, but as you grow up and you're going through these very impressionable years, as you're an adolescent and a teenager, and you go off, to live on your own at a certain point in your life, society is constantly putting images in front of you and examples in front of you of what they deem proper relationships and communication to look like, right?
yeah.
As a man, as you come up, the people that you look at and you see on your TV screens, on your phones, or in your music, they're telling you this format of what a man is supposed to be. He's
Yeah.
this dominant character who commands everything, and when he speaks, walks, moves, everything else falls in line behind him. They don't speak about the responsibilities that come with that. They don't speak about the expectations that come with that. They don't speak about the subtleties of how you have to create trust and love in order for people to follow you in that way. And it creates something that you're trying to live up to without knowing how you even develop to become that type of person.
That's
And
good.
so you're trying to live up to an image, but you don't have the characteristics and tools to be that. And oftentimes, that image isn't even something that you truly desire in your heart for yourself. You just believe that because that's what they said a man is supposed to be, that
Yeah.
that's what you need to be. And it's not producing fruit in your life, as Rex always likes to say. It's not producing the fruit that actually
Mm,
makes you happy.
yeah.
And because you've been conditioned, you never ask the question, well, what if this example of communication doesn't work for me?
Yeah.
What if this actually isn't effective? What if this actually isn't the best way to have proper relationship with the woman in my life for us to get on the same page?
Yeah.
But you only know this one way and you live by this one way. And so you're stuck in that one way because to you, to go into the unknown would be detrimental to your entire livelihood and understanding of what it is to be a man.
That's good. That's good. So let me add to that, right? I have two things. Right. Thing number one, we don't tend to communicate, we tend to confront,
Oh,
right? We tend to confront. We could tend to go to somebody and say, "You're not doing this or you're not doing that." We're telling people what we don't like, and how they're not doing something that's pleasing us, or how they're not saying certain things in a way that we can hear it. So we tend to confront. And I read in this book, it's called "How to Have the Hard Conversations," and they said confrontation without love can feel like an attack. It said so. In other words, they can they could see you, but they can't hear you, right? So in other words, anytime you have a conversation and it's not a soft startup, right? You
yeah.
don't ease into the conversation, and there's no love in the conversation. There's no, babe, listen, I'm gonna let you know I love you, but there's something I want to say. There's something that I feel that I want to get off my chest. You go straight into, we got to talk, and we got to talk right now, which
Uh-huh.
I'm automatically going to get into defense mode because of that, right? And anytime, just psychologically, if I am in hyperarousal mode, in my fight or flight mode, I am no longer able or have the capacity to comprehend what you are saying, because now I have to defend myself, right? And then the number two is, we were raised different, right? I read in a book, and they said women were raised on face-to-face intimacy, meaning we want to have the conversation. I want to know about your emotions. I want to know about your day. I want to know how you're feeling, because when they were being raised, that's what was being said. How are you feeling? What's wrong? Where does it hurt? How can I make it better? Right? They're going to be given dolls to play with. They're going to be given things that they can cuddle with, things that they could do tea parties with, right? Face to face. And it said men were born and raised off side by side intimacy. What can I do for you? Right?
Mm.
And if I'm raised off side by side intimacy and I'm basing my communication I'm doing, then you may tell me that you need me to show you more love, and I may show you more love by doing more for you. Meaning I may go pump the gas, or I may go bring the groceries in, I may wash your car, versus sitting in the conversation and having that with you, because that's not what we were born on doing or raised on doing. I can't speak for everybody, but that is the story for a lot of men. So I think that right there, it's a major disconnect.
Rex, that's a beautiful thing that you said. Um, and I know that we have a lot of questions, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But yes, that is exactly it. The conditioning leads to how you think communication to take place. And at a certain point, I'm not even going to say what I think the solution is, because I'm pretty sure that's one of the questions coming up is
Yeah.
what can we do? So I'm going to just shut up and let us move forward. But what you said was right.
And listen, so I peeped. So two things. I peeped Lauren was taking notes or writing something down. So you have anything to ask that, Lauren?
No, I just wrote down what you said because I thought that was so like spot on.
Yeah.
About the different two sides of intimacy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I had to jot that down because I'm gonna come around to that. But I saw some questions in our chat.
Questions.
Let's get it.
Questions. So we have a question from Madeline. She says, "How do you stop being defensive?"
What do you think, Coach?
First thing you have to decide is, do you want to be right about your partner or right with them? Oftentimes when we go into conversations with our partners, we're going into it like it's the court of law. Yeah. And we are coming in to provide our evidence, and we are prepared to prove that you're wrong. And so a lot of times when we come at our partners, we come at them like they're the enemy. And we're so busy trying to prove ourselves right that we don't realize that you're losing the war. You're losing their heart. Is being right worth your partner? Is it worth them being hurt? Is it worth, y'all can't talk for 2 weeks? Is it worth, now he won't sleep with you for 2 weeks? Like, it ain't really worth all that in the end. But a lot of times that's one of the number one reasons, is because we're trying to be right about the person more than we're trying to be right with them. And the last thing that I'll say about that is it's also tied to the stories we tell ourselves. Sometimes when you're the only person telling the story, you're the only person that's hearing the story too. So, women, a lot of times we can act out of our feelings and we'll say, I felt like, but the fact remains that that's probably not the truth. So it'd be like that sometimes.
No, facts. That's good. What you think about, Moss?
Man, I would say really quick, one of the best ways to stop being defensive is to start appreciating the way your partner shows love and shows communication. Right? When I can put myself, all this is rooted in the same thing that Coach just said. What this really is rooted in is individual ego. Men and women both have it. And so when we go into situations and we're putting ourselves in front of the relationship, you're going to always cause misalignment to take place. Because the key is, if the relationship is good, then we're going to make sure that means that both of us are taken care of in this relationship. But as an individual, if I'm only focused on me and what I feel deprived of, and I'm not going about it in a way to communicate that's going to focus on what makes the relationship healthy, then I'm coming at it a selfish way. And you can only expect that you're probably going to receive a selfish response in return. So when I can lower myself, I can show up and say, okay, how does this person show love? What are the ways that this person has been taught and conditioned growing up? Most women that I've come into conversations with and I've coached, that's exactly what they'll bring up. He just does these things, but he doesn't communicate these things. Like, I want him to say this to me. I want him to. They're conditioned, the fellas that they're dealing with, conditioned to solve problems. And so when they hear you talking about something, all they're thinking of, what are the material or tangible things that I can do to solve this problem? One of the biggest things that I had to learn was, sometimes when a woman is venting to you, she's not looking for advice. She's not looking for a solution. She just wants you to sit there and listen. Right? But that would be impossible for me to provide to her, right? If I only thought that, based on what I know growing up, I need to just solve the problem. I got to lower myself and appreciate what she's trying to express to me. So once you appreciate the way your partner communicates and shows love, you can stop being so defensive, because you realize they're really here for you the entire time.
That's good. And then one thing I'm gonna add to that is you gotta check yourself, right?
Mm.
What's behind my defensiveness? Why do I feel defensive? Right? I remember about a month and a half ago, no, really about 2 months ago, right? I have a routine where every month I will buy my lady flowers. But typically she will come to my place and I'll give them to her at my place. But there was a time period where she was busy, so she was like, "Hey, do you think you can just send them to my house?" And I was like, "I don't want to send them to your house. I would much rather you have them here."
Yeah.
And she asked me, "Well, are the flowers for you or are they for me?"
Mhm.
And I immediately felt defensive.
Yeah.
I immediately felt like, "What you like?" But I had to check myself. Right? Who are they for?
Yeah.
I had my reasons for wanting to have them here, and as I was speaking, I realized that I was just making excuses. The ideal goal is I got the flowers for her to make her feel special because that's something I wanted her to have, and the fact that she was changing my routine is why I felt defensive. So I had to check myself. So when you check yourself and ask yourself, why am I feeling defensive? Am I feeling defensive because they are saying things that make sense? Am I feeling defensive because they are saying things that I say to myself? Am
Yeah.
I feeling defensive because they are disrespecting me? Like, you got to ask yourself these questions. And then when you're able to check yourself, then you're able to sit back and say, well, you know what? Let me listen to my partner and actually hear them out. Why are they saying what they're saying? And if there's sense to it, if there's alignment in it, and if there's room for change, room for improvement, and if you want that relationship to flourish and to produce fruit, you got to lean into it. You got to check yourself, accept it, and say, you know what, you're right. Let me
Yeah.
make the adjustment. So I hope that answers your question, Miss Madeline.
That's amazing, Rex. Good job, guys. All
Yes, sir.
right, next question, Rex.
All right, bet. Next question. I think you just touched on this, Miles. If there's anything left on here, just let me know. What role does societal conditioning play in shaping the way men and women express love and affection?
Yeah. Yeah. We've already kind of went down this route. Only thing I would add on to it is I touched on this slightly. The key picture when it comes to like what society has said a man is or a woman is, I need you to do a self assessment and ask yourself what fruit does this particular ideology produce for me?
Yeah,
If I am embodying these characteristics and beliefs and I am not feeling satisfied, happy, fulfilled, purposeful, like things just don't feel right, I don't feel value. I'm talking about how you feel about yourself, not about how other
yeah.
people feel about you, but how you feel about yourself. Then clearly that ideology is not working. And
Mm,
I want you to challenge yourself to experience a different thought process, to
that's
open
good.
yourself up to a different way of living your life that might produce better fruit and actually make you happier. I
That's
know
good.
so many men who believe that their work is their value. And for every single one of those men who believe that their work is their value, I always come across that exact same man feeling like their work is never enough,
Yeah,
that there's never a good enough job done because there's always a new bill to pay. There's
yeah.
always a new need that the wife or the child needs. There's always some new expense. They got to take care of their family. They got to take care of it. There's always more work to do. And so they're never content. They're never satisfied. They're never proud of who they are and what they've done because they've associated this very tangible aspect of life as being an intangible value and reflection of who they are,
That's good.
rather than saying, hey, I'm good enough because I try. I'm good enough because I put in effort. I'm good enough because I show up as the best version of myself that I can be on any given day. And I love myself for my shortcomings, even when I don't have the energy to work, even when I can't do certain things, like valuing different aspects of yourself. So that's all I was saying is you need to do a self-assessment and ask yourself, men and women, if the ideologies you're living by are producing the fruit that you wanted. If they don't, you need to do some reevaluation.
That's good.
Matthew
Anything?
had a question from YouTube in the
Okay.
comments. He said, could this mindset possibly come from an internal thought process, or is the mindset a result of the deemed society around the men?
Rex, hit this one, or coach.
Hey,
I don't
ask
know.
that one more time.
Could this mindset possibly come from an internal thought process, or is the mindset a result of the deemed society around the men?
I think both. I think absolutely both, because if you think about it, without the exposure to social media, without the exposure to the world, or without the exposure to gender roles in society, you take kids back to middle school when everybody was treated the same, right?
Yeah.
The only differences was the boys would play extremely rough, and we knew not to roughhouse with the girls,
Mhm.
right? I know in my house, my mama said everybody gonna wash the dishes, everybody gonna clean them toilets, everybody gonna clean the tub, everybody gonna learn how to cook, everybody's gonna take out the trash. So like we all had these things, and we were all rewarded for doing good, and we're all punished for doing bad. It wasn't until I got into high school where you start dating, and now you start to learning, okay, now this is what a man's supposed to do, this is what a woman's supposed to do, and you start being if somebody did something to your ex that you weren't able to do, now you don't feel like you're good enough. Or if you have a friend that's spending a lot of money on their partner, and now your partner looking at you like, damn, they doing everything over there.
Yeah.
And now you feel like my little money ain't stretching long enough. So I think it plays off both. What do y'all think?
Coach.
I absolutely do. I believe that we're living in the trauma of our ancestors, to be quite honest. You think about black men, black men were products before they were people. Black women
Mm,
were property before they were a person. So unless you need me for something, then I'm not really worth much of anything.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
Unless you build it on top of me, or I'm belonging to you,
yeah,
then I'm not worth anything. So
Yeah.
I do believe that we're still living literally in the trauma of our ancestors. And we don't always realize it until somebody starts to challenge it. And then you start to see like why most men who feel like you only want me for my money, that
yeah,
automatically makes most men feel extremely um upset or
yeah,
dirty or like or angry. It's like they don't feel valued, right? And then for women, when we feel like you trying to control me, you trying to,
Exactly.
you don't own me kind of conversation, or we're trying to make sure that we got a man, because if we don't have a man, then who am I if I don't have a man, right? If I'm not Mrs. So and so, then who am I if I'm not connected to someone else? So we're until we break that stigma and become like okay with being ourselves and with ourselves, it's gonna be an uphill battle
Yes.
to be
That's
able to
good.
bring that kind of value to a relationship.
That's good.
that's real good. And I saw that firsthand, right? So growing up, when my parents got divorced and they got back into the dating world, any man that will come in the home and try to date my mom, he had to come with some money, right? Because you're talking about a single mother of 5 kids,
Mm.
right? We not what we say. I'm not here to play, dream, and drift. it's like
Listen.
it's like if you aren't helping, and if you can't help, then you have to go. And that was what I was exposed to. So if there was moments where the money would be good for the young man that was bringing money into the house, but the minute his money slowed down, my mom had it was disposable. Like, hey, you got to go. If you don't, you got to go. So watching that and hearing that on a consistent basis, then I put in my heart, and well, I learned that hell, if I'm not working hard enough, if I'm not producing, if I'm not working, then I'm not good enough for a woman, right? I'm not good enough just to be happy as doing what I want to do. I
Yeah.
have to be out using my hands. I have to be out making something happen. She has to see me doing something, because if she doesn't see me doing anything besides working, she sees me just being happy and not working, I'm not man enough.
Yeah.
So you have all of these different societal standards that are placed on you, but also when you are whatever you were raised in seeing is what you attach yourself to until you learn how to detach yourself and learn something new.
I love that.
That's good. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. How do traditional gender roles contribute to misunderstandings in relationships regarding emotional vulnerability?
Mm.
Ciao.
That's good. I'm gonna take the boys, and coach, you can take the girls if you want.
Absolutely, I'm here for it.
Okay. So traditional gender roles. You think about it as boys, the toys that you're given, right? It's always going to be something like physical. It's
Yeah.
going to be a soldier. It's going to be a monster, a dragon, a truck, something physically
Yeah.
imposing. Images that are not associated with emotions of vulnerability, weakness, happiness, or expression, but of ferocity, courage, danger, and fearlessness,
Yeah.
right? These things that make you believe that you are just this very impenetrable warrior that can't be beaten.
Yeah.
And as you go through life, you go through experiences, and you're told, you know, men don't cry, so stop crying, boy. Right? Wipe your tears before I give you something to cry about.
Yeah.
Right? You're told these things as you're coming up. You're put in so many circumstances where you're told, well, boys don't get that. That's what girls do, right? The boys don't play dress up, right? Even if it's putting on suits, but no. The boys don't play dress up. That's for the girls. You know what I'm saying? You should be happy putting on whatever you got. You don't need nothing, right? You get all these different concepts in your head about the expression of what you like, desire, and feel.
Yeah.
And you're taught very early that men suppress any emotions that can be associated with vulnerability, and they express any emotions that will keep them from harm. So that's why we posture ourselves to be tougher than we really are, and to be fearless when we're really full of fear, and to portray ourselves as somebody that can't be hurt even though we're full of pain,
Yeah.
right? Um, and that starts at a very early age and just continues on as you get older, as we continue to be told by society what a man can do and what a man cannot do.
That's good.
So that's just the way that affects you when you become a grown adult. It is so difficult to sit there and express what you're really feeling, because anything outside of those core emotions that you were taught was okay for a man to express. How do I tell you that, hey, what you said hurt my feelings? A man ain't supposed to be hurt. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, right? That's what they say. I'm only supposed to be hurt if it physically impacts me, but
Yeah.
anything mental or emotional, no, that doesn't matter. It is what it is. Ball up top, like we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's what we're taught. So you can't communicate. It's very difficult for you to open up.
That's good. What you think about that, Lauren?
I think that's spot on. I think another added side to that is there are times when men are vulnerable and women are too. But I'll say this, depending on how that response was the first time you dealt with it, it will literally determine if you're going to do it ever again. Most women that struggle with vulnerability are also the same women that have been, their vulnerability has been weaponized against them.
Yeah.
And so now they can no longer trust you when you say, well, just tell me the truth. I just want to hear you, but what have you, because just like men, women we don't want to hear you bring it up again in a different setting for a different conversation as your jugular, because we don't know how to fight fair. And that may be a topic for a different night, but we do not know how to fight fair, and we don't know how to fight in bounds. Right? Because we want the person to be the problem and not deal with the problem. So what tends to happen is you get a woman who doesn't become vulnerable ever. And so you're always trying to figure out how to love her, but not really knowing, because she's not going to be honest enough to tell you that. And the other big fear to that is rejection. Just like men don't want to be rejected, women don't want to be rejected either. So we both have this fear that's keeping us from being able to connect, because we're so busy trying to make sure that we win this war against somebody that's supposed to be your partner. So I'll land my plane here. A lot of us, and I wanted to bring the definition up, and I know Rex, this is going to make you smile. Emotional abuse. We do not realize that as a culture, emotional abuse is a thing. I think sometimes because we think we know what the two words mean separately, that we know what they mean collectively, and we don't really be knowing. Okay. So one of those things is manipulation. Characteristics of emotional abuse, manipulation, or you being like attacking someone or humiliating them. Black people, we good for talking about your downfall. You know, dirty T. We're gonna call you out by name. Like that's how we help people remember who you know, Funky Miles. All that boys. Like that is Black people. We will humiliate you in a minute, and it will become your new nickname. So every time we're trying to tell our friends about you or our parents or whoever, we're gonna refer to you by the thing that humiliates you. So who's gonna be vulnerable with that? And that's what we're talking about in the household.
Yeah.
Just land my plane there.
That's good.
That's good. No, that's real good. And you're right. I just ran through a whole bunch of list of nicknames I was called or heard growing up. Fat or big head, fat boy, EE. That's what they call my brother, EE. Just imagine that. That ain't no good connotation to come into that. Okay. All right, so this is gonna be a good one. In what ways do men and women interpret financial responsibility differently in relationships? How can these differences lead to conflict?
Hey, look. When it comes to that money, this is one thing I've noticed with women. And this isn't every woman, but a general perception is two people could be working in a relationship. The way your money is looked at is your money is our money. If you're a man, the money you make is our money. The money she make, that's her money. Right? And this, like I said, this is not every single relationship, but when we're talking about certain assumptions that are taken, and that cause confusion, I think that one of the plights that men and women struggle with is when people feel entitled to what other people have worked for, and then don't feel generous and appreciative enough to show up for people in the ways that they can, right? I think men oftentimes feel taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Because we associate money, especially when you talk about, like we said, the way we're raised growing up, a man's responsibility to provide. That's not placed as the requirement for the woman from a financial perspective, from a traditional societal perspective. That is placed on the man. So I already have to work my tail off just to be the societal standard of good enough.
Yeah.
But then when I'm in a relationship with a woman and she doesn't seem appreciative of how hard I work to take care of her, to make sure that she doesn't have to worry about anything. And then when there's times where she could do a little bit extra on some finances or she could take care of something, and it's like, man, why you keep getting me t-shirts and underwear for my birthday? At a certain point, that financial conversation starts to come up, and he says, I pay all these bills.
Yeah.
I keep a roof over our head. I make sure we got money to get any food we need, everything taken care of. And you can't do just this, that, and that. And so that money, I think for men, if they don't feel appreciated, if we don't feel appreciated, it tears apart a lot. And I think there's a very big misconception about what women are entitled to from a man and what they have to give towards a man in a partnership.
That's good. I want to add this because I had this recently pop up in my counseling office, right? So a man came in, was dealing with some conflict with his wife. And he said, man, Rex, I work 13-hour days. And I work 6 days a week and I'm off for 1 day. He was like, but the days I get off, my wife has so many tasks ready for me.
Honey-do list.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got so many tasks. Like she wants me to go to the store and do this. She wants me to go do stuff in the yard. He was like, now, granted, there's certain things that I'm already knowing that I need to be on top of. So you don't got to remind me. But when beyond the things I need to do around the house to fix in the yard work, but when it's the grocery store runs and when it's the things that I deem that she could do because she has the time for it, or because we have her son that's not my son in the house that's of age that can make these runs, I don't feel the respect that I need when I come home, because when I do come home and I'm sitting down, if I want to watch the game, she'll look at me and say, why don't you ever help out around here? And he was just like, that immediately triggers me because now I have to throw back in her face of what I do.
Yeah.
Right. But I just got through working 6 13s in a row. And I said, because if he wasn't using the word respect, he said there's been a lot of conflict and there's a lot of rage around it. I said, the word you're looking for is you don't feel respected. You don't feel. He was like, I never really thought about that. He was like, you're right. And I told him, I had to remind him, men need respect, women need love. When a man doesn't act in ways that aren't loving, she doesn't act in ways that aren't respectful. When a man and a woman doesn't act in ways that are respectful, a man doesn't respond in ways that are loving. So the way you guys are greeting each other, the way you guys are dealing with conflict, you feel disrespected. So you got to show her you're big and bad and how much money you're making and that you're making more money than her versus just trying to figure out where the disconnect is. And I think that is a huge problem. But Lauren, what you got? What you think about the topic?
No, I think that's spot on. And here goes the problem with that. So when we start with this whole how much money I made, well, guess what you just did? You just, especially if you're married to strong-minded, strong-willed alpha woman personality.
Yeah.
Oh, so when I'm making more money than you, then what?
Yeah.
Because the problem that you're saying that we solving for, you saying what the tiebreaker is this check.
Yes.
So what I'm gonna do
Make
is
some more money.
I'm gonna make more coin. Now what you got, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens when we make an argument about something that's really not the argument, and we're not honest about what our feelings are, because it had absolutely nothing to do with the money. It had everything to do with the fact that you didn't feel accounted for, you didn't feel respected, you didn't have gratitude. So gratitude couldn't change your attitude because you didn't have one, right? There's no gratitude. So the issue is we make the money the problem when that ain't the problem.
Yeah.
And now the problem is still a problem.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about something else and we're not able to really get on the same page. One of the things, and I know I have not shared this, so how I got into coaching and becoming an author and doing all the things that I'm doing, I was married for 10 years, went through a divorce. One thing I will say about my ex-husband, to this day, we never argued over money. Even now, we have never had an argument behind money. Now, we had in our marriage an argue around respect. Because I didn't understand that a man needed respect. And I also didn't understand how to give that, because I didn't see that in the household. My parents were married 21 years, both of them in ministry. I'm a PK, preacher's kid, for y'all that's trying to figure that out. And don't put nothing in them comments about what all preacher's kids is. Okay. But
it was coming.
Yeah, they cover with that, them PKs. But I didn't see respect. Like what I saw, I wouldn't title that under respect. I saw what Miles said. I saw my daddy worked. His money was mama money. Her money was her money. And she ran the whole house money. But mother was better with money, right? So he trusted her with that, and he trusted with the finance. But there still wasn't this level of modeling of respect. So a lot of times in these relationships, you got to be prepared to teach your person what respect looks like for you, because what respect looks like for you may not look like that for everybody else. And so that comes back to vulnerability and having clear communication. So for those of you that are struggling with the money conversation, baby, listen, it's just cash flow. Don't make it hard. It's accounting. What day you get paid, what day the bill due. What day he get paid, what day the bill due. Find something else to argue out. Like I tell my clients, the only arguments I'm trying to see you have is in them sheets. That's it.
That's it.
That's real.
Money don't need to be the problem.
Literally. That's good. That's real good.
And I just want to say something really quick on that. On both ends, you gotta love a person beyond what they do. You have to love a person for who they are.
Yeah.
Because like you guys said, what happens, you guys talked about if she or he starts making more money, what happens if you lose that money? Right? I'm not going to go into, my story with, things that I saw growing up, because I've told it a million times. But long story short, I've witnessed it firsthand when the man goes from being the person who was the breadwinner to not being able to bring in an income. What happens then? As a wife, do you respect and love and honor your husband because one of those main aspects is because he just does such a great job at his place of employment. It brings in this money and we never have to worry about anything. It's so secure. Well, what happens when it ain't so secure?
Yeah.
What happens when there's all this doubt in the air about where this next check is going to come from, how y'all going to pay these bills? Do you still give him the same respect and honor that you
Yeah.
did when he was making all that money? And vice versa, as a man, do you still come home and find a way to love your wife, to feel like you're valued in this relationship, and still find ways to show up for her when you don't have a bag behind it?
Yeah.
Because a lot of men,
Mm-hmm.
we skip out on the intentionality and the emotional and sentimental aspects of how we can love a woman, because we think that so long as I buy you what you want when you ask for it, that's enough. But you could write a letter and it'll make her happier than the necklace you spent $10,000 on. You could go get her flowers when she's on her period and she will respect that a hell of a lot more
Yep.
than her having to pester you to take her out on a date. It's just, you got to value and love a person for who they are, not just what they do. And until we get that as a basis of your relationship, money is going to be causing problems that really it doesn't need to cause.
The only person that get excited about the money is prostitutes.
Man.
For real.
And I said what I said.
No, and then you gotta think about it like this though. I feel like the whole money comparison, the same thing is the beauty comparison. If I only like you or love you because of what you look like, what happens when you get old? What
Yes.
happens when things shift and change? What happens if you have a physical disability, right? What happens if you have a stroke? If I only love you because of what you look like, what happens if you get cancer?
Yes.
Right, and
Mm.
now they got to cut all your hair off, and now your eyebrows got to go, and you don't, your skin ain't the same as it used to be. What happens then, right? Same way with the money. What happens if I'm up one day and I'm down the next day? If you only love me because of what I looked like and not because of who I was, then I would never be enough for you. Everything that we'll do is going to be conditional. Everything I say is going to be conditional. I'm going to love you under condition that you make enough money. I'm going to love you under condition that you never get too big. And I always had this thing where I was like, I had a fear of my partners getting big
Huh.
because I had a very conditional heart. If you got too big, we could not be together. I don't. That's not my speed, right? That
Yeah.
was my thing. But and then my partners, they used to always say, but what happens if I were to get pregnant? What happens if this? I said, well, listen, you can work out, right? Like,
What?
so I'm like, so
There's a
listen,
man
so
with no pregnancy.
That
what you
man
say?
is.
No,
There's
no,
a man
listen.
that's not
That
pregnant.
no, I know that's where my head was.
But
I'm
that's
just
where he
like,
was. That's
I'm
real.
like, like, if you're not getting pregnant, why are you getting big?
Yeah.
That was my mindset. That
Yeah.
was my, but at the end of the day, that's what you call superficial.
Yes.
That's what you call not being in something for the right reasons. So, like, if you really want to have an unconditional love, then I'm going to love you if you have a big season and a slim season. I'm going to love you if you have a up season and a down season when it comes to financial. I'm going to love you in your season of depression or your season of joy and season of being fruitful. I got to love you through all of these different seasons. And the thing is, we're not ready for that type of love because we never seen that type of love. We never been exposed to that type of love. We never felt that type of love. So it's like, how can I give you something I never felt or never been exposed to?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're not connected to the right person, of course, you're not connected to God and realizing that God loves you for who you are, not for what you do. God loves you because he created you in his image. Like if you don't know who your source is and whose you are, man, you'll never know who you are. You'll never be in love with who you are.
Yes.
So, and you'll never be appreciative of what God has blessed you with. Because we said this on the podcast. You need to treat your partner like God handed them to you himself. And then you have to love every single phase and every single season that they go in. So don't want to harp on that too much. Do we have
You
any
didn't never
questions in
say
the
that.
chat?
Um, how do you recommend for Madeline? How do you recommend to go about becoming more open-minded, self-reflective, or holding yourself accountable? And I think this is in reference in general to becoming more open-minded about another person's perspective, their love language, all those different things,
Yeah,
and holding yourself accountable for how you show up and respond.
yeah. So you, the self accountability part, I'm going to speak to that. I want you to have a session with yourself, right? Whether you do a video session, whether you do a journaling session, whether you do a memo session, and the topic of discussion is where are my flaws? And if I had to do a self-assessment over all of my past relationships, where did I go wrong? Once you sit down and let your ego go, and because a lot of us will say, I was good. It was them that was the problem. But once you actually are honest with yourself about where you went wrong, where you was too prideful, where you was too defensive, where you tried to play the victim, where you tried to throw up his trauma in his face, or where you tried to cheat and then make it seem like it was his fault why you cheated and not your fault. Like when you sit down and you think about these areas, that's going to be a place of accountability. And once you have a list of the areas that you are falling short, you ask yourself a couple different questions. Thing number one, what's the opposite of this behavior? Thing number two, is this something that I can do on my own or do I need help to make this adjustment? Thing number three, what's keeping me stuck? Right? And once again, if something is keeping you stuck, you go back to question number two. Is this something I can handle on my own or is something I need to go get some help with? So that's a way that you can hold yourself accountable and then also connect yourself with other humans that are on the same level or on a higher level that you share your weaknesses, you share your vulnerabilities with, and you let them know when you're feeling off and you ask them questions, how can I improve? And you are open to it. And even when it comes to your partner, you ask your partner, in what ways um, am I the best partner for you? And in what ways can I show up different? And be open and receptive, because if you ask your partner a question, they give you something you don't want to hear, you can't get mad at that simply because you asked them what they felt. But if you sit up here and try to tell them that what they said isn't true, then they're not going to feel the need to open up to you no more.
Yeah, that's some real stuff.
Yeah.
It's good.
Did y'all have any responses to that?
Coach.
360 feedback is always important. Ask your partner about the feedback. The person that determines if communication is effective or not, it's not the speaker, it's the listener. And you cannot tell a person how they listened to you. So in order to get into seeing it from their point of view, that only happens when you ask, hey, what did your heart hear me say? Based on what you've heard me say, tell me, what did that sound like? How did that make you feel? Get a survey. Bath and Body Works send you a survey.
Yeah.
Get a survey. Get feedback. They think it smelled good. That's why they invested money, put it on the shelf, sent you a coupon. But you may not think so. And the only way they're gonna know that you don't like it, you gotta tell them.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
That's
real
good.
good. That open mindedness. Only thing I was gonna say to add to the open mindedness is this: open mindedness, and Rex, you kind of touched on it, and Coach, you just touched on it too. You have to have a new input, right? So it comes with exposing yourself to information that you didn't have before. The reason why you're
Yeah.
closed minded is because you believe that you know everything you need to know about said circumstance. So you formed your opinion. When you either ask for feedback from your partner, you start reading books that present to you a different way of thinking, you start going in community and around people, or going into signing up for courses, joining communities. These are the type of things that allow you to realize that the world is not so black and white the way that you think it is. And you
Yeah.
start to realize that your black and white is really just your comfort areas that
Yeah.
protect you from the things you don't want to address. So that's why you're not open minded, because to you, open mindedness would then trigger the fact that you've been doing things wrong, that you might not actually be where you need to be. And that can be a scary thing,
Yeah.
especially when you got a lot of pride and ego that says, oh, I'm doing fine. Like you said, Rex, I didn't do nothing wrong. It's tough when you got to sit there and say that, okay, I was with somebody that was domineering and they ran all over me. And you can write that and blame that on them. It's difficult when you have to say, oh, I didn't have no self worth and no boundaries,
Yeah.
because that's why they were able to run over you,
Yeah.
right? So you have to open yourself up for new input if you want to be open minded.
That's good. Okay, perfect. So, as I told you before, we have 10 questions, and it looks like tonight we're only going to do five.
Okay.
Only going to do five. So, what we'll do is we'll answer this last question to the fullest capacity. We'll answer one more question from the live, and then we'll close out with things that you guys can look forward to seeing from us. Everybody that's tapping in right now. But if you like what you hear, make sure you follow Let's Talk Like Men. Make sure you follow Coach Lauren J. Make sure you subscribe to the channels too. Like, subscribe, all the above.
Absolutely.
Um, so, last question. Why is there often a gap in the expectations men and women have about relationship dynamics? And how can these gaps be bridged?
I think that the gap, I'm gonna get a little religious just because I've been on this journey of becoming more submitted and obedient. I heard something Darius Daniel said where he talked about the purpose that God gives you in life and the things God places on your heart. And he says, why would God give you something that you didn't need him to get through?
Mm,
Why would he place something on you that you just had 100% capability to do? He talked about, he said, there's so many examples in the Bible of people coming to God saying, God, you think I can do this? Why do you think that I'm able to do this, Lord?
yeah,
God doesn't sit there and tell them that they're wrong for their doubts.
right.
He doesn't sit there and tell them, like, oh, I know the odds are up against David, telling you to go slay this giant.
Yeah.
I know. He's not sitting there saying, David, no, David, you got it. No, no, no. God tells these people, if you go with me and you trust me, I'll make it happen. Right? You just need to do your part and I'll take care of the rest. I'll fill in the gap. Right? And that's what I think happens in relationships. When you start to think from this religious perspective, a godly perspective, um, and I'll answer this in a non-religious way in a second, but I'm gonna answer it this way first. When you put God in it, you have the perfect examples of how you can reach your partner in the ways that are unnatural to you, the ways that aren't comfortable for you. Because you start to see how God showed up for you in these moments when you weren't receptive, when you tried to defy him, when you spit in his face all these times, and he still loved you. It's like, okay, well, how can I not be more patient with this person?
Yeah.
How can I not try again and communicate better with them to fill in the gap? And so I think you got to put God in it. Now, for those of you who may not be religious, what I would say is you need to develop emotional intelligence to realize that you aren't the easiest person in this world to deal with yourself.
That's good.
That there are a lot of people that you are off putting to because of your particular response mechanisms. You are not perfect. And people give you grace, people give you opportunities, people educate you and show up for you the best way that they can. You should be willing to do the same thing for the person you claim you love because
That's
that's
good.
what makes love work.
That's amazing, brother. That's amazing. What you think about that, coach?
Uh, Absolutely amazing, and one of my favorite Darius Daniels. He's one of my faves. Uncommunicated expectations and self-preservation. Those are the two. A lot of times we don't communicate what we want, and so we talked about entitlement earlier, but entitlement is connected to titles. So when a person has the title, now I'm entitled to your time, I'm entitled to your money, I'm entitled, because titles bring entitlement. But when we do not express our expectations, then what begins to happen is we make assumptions of what you should be doing.
Making an
And
ass
that
out of you and me.
becomes,
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
becomes an issue. And then self-preservation, we're so busy trying to act like um we're so busy trying to self-preserve ourselves,
Mhm.
that and protect us, that we're not willing to sacrifice. And so in a relationship, in marriage, what have you, love is sacrifice. It is not a feeling. So if you're not willing to cut off something for the person you say you love, you don't love them, you leech them,
Mm,
but
that's
you
good.
don't love them, because love is sacrifice, darling. And if you're not willing to let go of something and cut off something you want in
Yeah.
order to preserve the love you got, stay single.
Who
That's
coach?
good. You don't love, and that's so good. It makes me think about the immature relationships. Why are you following them? Why are you liking these pictures? Well,
Mhm.
honestly, I don't really like that person, so I need you to make a decision what you're gonna do with that person. I'm not telling you to cut them off, but they're a problem for our relationship. And we get to the point where we say, "Well, babe, they're my best friend,"
They've been in
or
my life.
they've been around for a minute, but they're a problem,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, would you rather your best friend, or would you rather a friend that you deem as a best friend be upset? Would you rather your partner who you want to spend the rest of your life with be upset?
Yep.
Right? Would you rather them be upset, or would you rather have a house that doesn't feel like a home?
Yeah.
Like what decisions are you willing to make? And everything comes with self-reflection. If I can't cut something off, what's my attachment to it?
Yes.
What's my attachment to it?
Hmm.
Right? What the Bible says, never make anything your idol. But a lot of times we make a lot of things our idol. We make our friends our idols. We make our jobs our idols. We like everything is replaceable. But if we can't replace it, there's a reason for why.
That's good. That's real good.
What you got, Miles?
Oh, I don't have nothing else to add.
Okay.
That was fire.
Bet. Well, listen, guys. I think that this makes me miss the podcast, man.
I
We
know, bro. I was just about to say, Coach, I can't wait till we get back in the studio because you got to get on. It's
I'm
gonna be
coming.
yeah,
real quick. We did
definitely
have
excited.
one more question in the IG.
Okay.
And we can answer this real quick. The question is from Purposeful Blends. How do you tell your partner that you're not feeling like they love you because you're not seeing them give you love the way you want, but then they will relate it to something that they aren't feeling?
How do you tell your partner that they're not love you because you don't
You're not feeling the love. How you tell them that I'm not feeling the love because they're not giving you love the way that you want to receive it,
right.
right? But when you tell them this, they're always relating it back to they just don't feel it, something that they're not feeling.
Right. So it's been interesting because that the last follow up thing it sounds weird for me. But ultimately you ask yourself, what am I needing?
Mhm.
What am I needing? Right? Because I can feel, first of all, what is my feeling and what am I needing? I could feel abandoned. I can feel rejected. I could feel like I'm not spending enough time with you. I can feel like I'm not communicating enough with you. I can feel like we don't have enough quality time or enough closeness. I can feel like we haven't been having our car rides, or you haven't put your hand in my lap enough, or I haven't been able to put my hands in you enough. I can feel these things. But when you ask yourself, what am I feeling and what am I needing? If you're needing more time, say that. Babe, I miss you and I would really like to spend some more time with you, right? Or, babe, I really feel deprived of touch. I would really love for us to do a 60-second hug. Or I really love to commit to kissing for 60 seconds before you leave the house and when you make it back in. Like, or I really want to feel more connected to you, right? If you can deliver your message in a way that doesn't confront them, that doesn't disrespect them, but also in a way that's assertive, and you're being honest and transparent about what you want, then you put it in their hands to make a decision on what they're willing to give you. But if you express yourself in a respectful way, that's compassionate, that's kind, that's patient, and you say, babe, I've been missing you, and I really want to feel more connected. So would you mind if we sat and watched a movie tonight instead of doing work or doing our regular routine? And they say, I just don't feel like it, then that's a bigger problem.
Yeah. I'll also say this. There's a root behind why they're not quote unquote feeling it. And you got to get down to the root of that, right? Because some are very fair reasonings as
Yep.
to why, right? Prime example, there's going to be a time period, fellas, where your woman will not be in the mood to have sex with you. And it could be for weeks or months on end. It could be because she just had these children. She's dealing with postpartum. It could be because she's dealing with deaths in her family. There could be anything going on in her life, stress, whatever. She might not want to, but for men, that physical touch is a reassurance of love. I need you to have what uh Lonnie and Latoya, what she spoke on, long suffering,
For being chill.
right? That ability to understand like everything in life has a season. And there's going to be some seasons where certain aspects of your relationship are going to shift for a period, but that is not forever.
Oh,
But you need to get to the root, because if you don't get to the root, then you're going to have resentment.
yep.
And when resentment builds up, now you can't see your partner for who you need to see them as.
Yeah.
That's when you lose the love in the relationship.
That's good. Coach, what you want to ask that before we close off?
Is this the person to fix that problem?
Hmm.
Because sometimes you want somebody to fix something they didn't break.
Oh,
So is this person the right person to fix that problem?
That's good.
And account for that person by asking, is this a good time? How would you feel if? Because women are feely. So how would you feel if? Present present an option, right? Present an agreement, a plan that can equal to an agreement. But if you just present a plan that you expect this person to just follow, and there's no agreement, how can two walk together unless they agree? Amos 3:3. They can't. So really, first, sometimes we need to identify, is this the person? Because maybe sometimes we just need to deal with that mama trauma, and then we don't have to keep going through this.
Yeah, that's good.
That's real good. Okay, bet. Well, I think this conversation was definitely fruitful. What I would like to do now, as we close out, is Coach, let them know what's coming up. What you got?
Man, click the link in my bio. You've been seeing it on our tickler at the top. I work with couples and I help them turn conflicts into connections, arguments into agreements. So our last free webinar of the year is happening Wednesday, October 16th, 7 p.m. If you want to grab a seat, listen, you don't want to miss it. It's been great. Our last webinar was amazing. And so the link is in my bio. Literally click the link in my bio. You can hurry up and grab your spot for the last round of this year.
That's amazing. And where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram. I am Lauren G. Jackson. Facebook, Lauren G. Jackson. YouTube, Coach Lauren J. And TikTok, Coach Lauren J. as well. So I'm on wherever you look. Google it. Whatever you look is going to come up, I promise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brother Miles.
Man, you guys know you can find me on every single platform at Miles the Millennial. For me, if you're looking for coaching, make sure you follow me on the app Fellow. If you're looking for a speaker to come speak in your schools, guys, go on the link in my bio. You go to my website, fill out a booking form, and we can set up a free consultation to figure out what your needs are. Rex, what you got for the people?
Absolutely. So as you guys know, I'm Rex Howard Jr., the relationship and sex therapist, personal development coach. If you were looking for a counselor or a coach in Texas or in surrounding areas, you want to deal with relationships, you got some trauma you need to work through, you got some personal development issues you need to work through, you want to become more emotionally intelligent, go to resolvecc.com. I'm in book a session. And lastly, for men, we meet every single morning, Monday through Friday, from 6:50 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., Monday through Friday, Central Standard Time. Called the Morning Mastery Meetup. This is the only place to be in the mornings before you get to work if you are a developing man. The topics change every single day, but I promise you're going to get value, you're going to get accountability, you're going to feel the love, you're going to feel the support, and there's a lot of opportunities that come up there. And the good thing is, it's free, right? It's almost like group therapy for free every single day, Monday through Friday. And I'm about to get ready to open up Saturdays too, because I just love the group that much. And all you got to do is go to my bio at I am Rex Howard Jr. On Instagram, or Let's Talk Like Men podcast on Instagram. Click on the bio and click the link Morning Mastery Meetup. Answer 2 questions. Click the link to join the group. Voila, you're in there.
Love it.
Love it.
We appreciate you guys all for joining today. Make sure, like we said, you follow us at our different platforms, those links to get access to the different things that we are offering to you guys. And this is Real Talk, Real Growth. And we can't wait to see you guys on next Tuesday.
Peace.
Peace.
All right.